18th of August 2023. This news flash I want to talk about a statement made by the Transnet CEO. I saw this tweet on my timeline on Twitter. It was from Richard Spoor. It is best not to fix the railways because that would be bad for the trucking industry, says Transnet CEO. Like decent public transport is bad for the taxi industry and piped water is bad for the water tanker entrepreneurs. And he referred to this article from News 24. Now, in that thread there was a lot of responses, and some of the responses was absolutely hilarious. The one guy reckons, so the health services must not be sorted out by the government because it will be bad for the funeral parlors sector. And I read through those things and I really couldn't believe it. And then I went to the article. Transnet CEO fears major job losses in trucking industry if rail improves. This is a follow-up on that Skidmark I did yesterday about that minister in the presidency and her hilarious views on township industries to contribute to BRICS. And now this CEO, now if you look at that image, I'm just curious, what qualifications does this woman have to warrant her the position of CEO? Now for me, living in South Africa, I have to accept that her primary qualification is the fact that she's black, then secondary is the qualification that she's female. Those are the two most important things. Nothing to do with merit, nothing to do with qualification, nothing to do with skills or ability. Black woman, and there she goes. And then she makes a statement like this. Transnet CEO fears major job losses in the trucking industry if rail improves. But let's look at the article. South Africa's surge in trucking that's emerged largely due to higher coal prices and train bottlenecks may lead to catastrophic job losses in the road transport sector when factors ease, according to the head of the state-owned port and rail company. The logistics problem faced by Transnet, from locomotive shortages to vandalism, have forced miners to choose the more expensive option of trucking commodities to the coast to take advantage of higher prices. Over 3,500 trucks per day carried mine products across the nation's roads, more than double such traffic in 2020, according to the Minerals Council of South Africa. Now I need to mention this. In the 70s and 80s, I had a friend that was working with a CSIR. And for those of us from those years can remember, you saw these things on the highways. It's a long frame, it looks like a truck frame. And it had a cabin on it and so forth, and it was standing in the last lane, in the most left-hand lane of the highways. In that yellow lines, and then there was a wheel attached to this frame that were running up and down next to that frame on the tar. And for those that don't understand, that thing was testing the wear and tear on that road. Now wear and tear, for those that don't understand, is how much a surface deteriorates when you use it. It's like you take a file and you start filing a piece of steel pipe. And if you keep on filing on the same spot, eventually you're going to file through and there's going to be a hole in the pipe. Now that explanation was necessary for some. Fact is, And now those things were measuring the wear and tear of vehicles on the road surface. And one of the astonishing things was that one 30-ton truck puts the same wear and tear on that road surface that 100,000 cars do. Let that sink in. 100,000 cars. Now if you look at this 3,500 trucks per day that she's talking about, multiply that by 100,000 and then you'll see how much traffic you need to do the same damage to the roads. But you just got to go into the Highveld here, all the roads are gone. You go to the Eastern Free State, all the roads are gone. You go down towards Natal on the Pongola roads, all those roads are gone. Destroyed by the big trucks. Destroyed. This government does not maintain infrastructure. They don't build new infrastructure, they don't maintain. And whatever is there is now being destroyed by the trucks. And then you must take in consideration the vast number of serious accidents these trucks are involved with and the lives involved there. And then you look at the man hours lost of the people injured and you look at the hospital costs and all of that. And then you see that one thing that breaks in a complex system has got a hell of a lot of effects all over the country basically. Now we know that Mbalula was mastering that plan of getting his cadre friends into the trucking business. In the old days, under the apartheid regime, you needed a permit to be able to transport goods on the national roads. And those permits were extremely scarce because the government was forcing all transport, long distance transport, onto rail. Because rail can cope with it and rail doesn't damage the economy, plus it's a cheap way of transport. But these guys just threw the book out of the window and fly by the seat of their pants. And that's where we sit today. Our roads has been destroyed by the trucks, with a few cadres making a lot of money. And these trucks, many of these trucks are part of syndicates. That raises concern over what will happen to truck owners in the wake of lower commodity prices and as rail operations improve, Transnet Chief Executive Officer Portia Derby said at the Bloomberg event in Johannesburg. Operators in the sector needs to start earnest talks and establish a model that will include truckers long term. We have created the demand. Our failure on one hand and also the demand of the mining industry has created the trucking industry, she said. For the vast majority of the truckers, they are moms and pops who, when they left work, took their pensions and bought a truck because there was an opportunity. And there she mentions it. They created this by destroying the railways. Here on the Highveld, all the power stations, all of them, that is how they were designed in the days when they were designed to be built. They were built on the coal fields, and the bulk of the coal transport was by rail from the mine to the power station or by conveyor belt. All of those things have been neglected and destroyed to feed the truck industry. I've seen it here in my area. I've known people that took their pension money and bought a truck. But the tragedy is, in 3 or 4 months' time, when that single truck operator, when that truck starts needing maintenance, they don't have the facilities to service those trucks, so those trucks must go to a service center to be serviced. And it's off for a day or 2 or 3 days, and there's no income on those days, and then comes the end of the month and the guy can't make the payment. Because the banks were participating in this scam. All you had to do was go to the bank with a contract, say you've got a contract to transport coal from point A to point B. You show them that contract and they finance a truck. But, so the whole system was hollowed out and corrupted. And now we've got this laughable situation that they don't want to improve the rail service because it will damage the truck industry. Trucks carrying coal and other commodities sit in queues that stretch for miles to the Mozambican border and crowd ports along the coast. The onslaught of traffic in rural areas and towns has created safety issues for the communities as well as drivers. But prices for export coal have dropped more than 50% in the first half of the year, compared to the same period in 2022, Exxaro Resources said. Limited reported Thursday in a results statement. We certainly need to get more freight off the roads and back on the rail straight to port in a very streamlined manner. Chitsa Madzima, head of the Operational Risk Research for BMI Fitch Solutions, said at the event. Now, this is a guy that is informed and he knows what he's talking about and he makes this statement, but he makes it to a CEO that states that it will be bad for the truck industry if they improve the rails. She's the CEO of the rail service. Can you understand my disgust in it? I am so sick and tired of whites this and whites that and kill the boer and kill the farmer and all that crap. And everything is blamed on apartheid and blamed on whites. But these people, they fucked the economy up. They fucked the industries up. They fucked everything up. Transnet was a super efficient service. And now they say all sorts of stories about shortages of this, shortages of that. What happened to that massive industrial setup at Kuduspoort that was servicing Transnet? What happened to the setup in Nigel? What happened there? We were self-sufficient in rolling stock and all those things. And building locomotives. We did it. What happened to it? What? I'll tell you what happened to it. For those that are always blaming apartheid, what happened to that Transnet was black majority rule. Cadre deployments. That is what happened. This blame for this fiasco at Transnet is a blame that must be carried by the blacks because they did it to Transnet, not the whites. White people had no role in it. Blacks destroyed Transnet. When that coal mine was started up in Ellis-Ras, President Zuma said, a rail line must be built from Ellis-Ras to Witbank to connect to Richards Bay. The original line from Witbank to Richards Bay was built in 18 months. Zuma said that line must be built from Ellis-Ras to Witbank almost 12 years or 14 years ago. Not a single peg has been planted for it. Nothing. And that is blacks that did it. Not whites, blacks. Always blaming apartheid, always blaming whites. Now we play the black blame game. Because the blacks feel entitled to be a protected race. Nobody must point out their weaknesses because that upsets them. They must be protected from everything. They have privilege. They can do stupid things, but you cannot say anything about it, then you're a racist. But the economy is crashing. The South Africa that we knew in the 80s and the 90s has been totally destroyed. The steel system, the steel industry is gone. The textile industry is gone. The roads is basically gone. The rails is basically gone. But yet, they blame apartheid. In the meantime, it is they that did all these things. Whites had no hand in it. They did all of this to themselves. But I don't hear any mention about the thousands by thousands of black employees that lost their jobs at Transnet. But she's concerned about the families of the truckers. Let's carry on. Richards Bay Coal Terminal shipped 50 million tons of the fuel last year, the lowest amount in 3 decades due to rail issues. I hope our performance is not worse than last year, Derby said. So we are working really hard to make sure that we at least meet the 60 million tons that we committed to. It is absolutely shocking. That Richards Bay coal line was one of the best managed lines in South Africa. That thing ran, the trains were going all the time. No trucks on the roads to Richards Bay. You must go and look, search on YouTube for the video that was done by Carte Blanche on what the hell is going on in Richards Bay. You must see that town. That town has been destroyed with black coal dust. The trucks has destroyed the roads. The small towns on the way from Peter Tief down to Richards Bay, destroyed. The guys that has got crop fields next to the roads, the crops is destroyed by that black dust. Everything is destroyed. But what do they care? They do not plan for tomorrow. They're only happy if the wheels rolls today. And then we get this from Douglas Wayne. Only a genius level moron like this, clearly an ANC New Dawn deployee, can be so naively ignorant that they hold the entire economy back to please one sector. These cadres are far too ignorant to see the big picture. Exactly the same as the geniuses who prevent the electricity sector from deregulating, so they screw the entire economy so that they can keep their grubby paws on Eskom. The sooner we vote them out of existence, the better. Now, this is a sad thing, but the reality is, you have to just accept that the state in South Africa is a total failure. It is a miracle that the thing is still there. It is not functioning. There's not a single state department that is actually functioning. I mean, there's even corruption at the Weather Bureau. Fuck, imagine that. Corruption at the Weather Bureau. Nothing escapes it. Nothing. Health services are destroyed. And I see a hell of a lot of blacks attacking Ike Khumalo for the things that he is saying. The problem is this SASSA generation has never experienced a state that actually functions. They have never seen a State Department functioning and operating. They haven't. They were born and they grew up in a failed state. So all they know and their total reference is to this that they are living with today. They don't know that there was a time that you could walk into Baragwanath Hospital and that you could get open heart surgery for R1. They don't understand that. They don't remember or know of a time that you could buy a ticket on a train in Nelspruit and travel from Nelspruit on a passenger train all the way up to the reef and then down to Durban. And you're not robbed on the train, you're not raped on the train, you're not killed on the train. Your luggage is not stolen on the train. They don't know those things. They don't know it. They don't have a recollection of a time where you could sit in your home in front of on your patio and have a braai and have friends over and you all sit and chat and enjoy the evening without a person jumping over the fence with guns and rob you. They don't know that. They only know failed infrastructure, failed power supply, failed railway system, unemployment of 43%, crime through the roofs, and you cannot put your foot out of your door at night. You must lock your doors and lock everything and stay in your house and hope nobody attack you through during the night. That's their reference. And then the biggest problem, they're uneducated. They get to matric and they can't read and write properly. So they don't have any recollection of anything that was working. And they think we, the older guys like me, that talk about these things, and like Ike Kumalo, they think we're telling stories. But what they forget, a guy like Ike grew up and he lived in that. And he is telling what he experienced. So, but in any case, I thought I had to, this was just so shocking and disappointing. I had to share it. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.